Hi, my name is Jerry Kahn. I am an attorney. I practice in the areas of both immigration law and Social Security disability law. I have offices in San Francisco and in Benicia, and I take clients anywhere in the state of California. I am licensed in California and have been practicing for about 30 years. I'm going to talk today about Social Security disability law and specifically about the types of evidence, non-medical evidence, that are important to submit in a disability case. Before I talk about that type of evidence though, I want to talk about the burden of proof that you need to show, what you need to show in order to win your case. In order to win disability, you must prove that you cannot perform a job that you've done in the past, and they look to the past 15 years, or any other job that exists in our national economy. Most people actually can show that they cannot do a job that they performed in the past. Where most cases fail is that they cannot show that there's no other job in the economy that they cannot do. Or to say it another way, the government seems to be able to show there are other jobs that you can do. In fact, once you show that you cannot do your past job, it is the burden of proof. The burden of proof switches to the government to show that there are other jobs that you can do, and usually they do find these other jobs. What I'm going to talk about today is the type of evidence that you can provide to show that in fact you cannot do your past job or really any other job that exists in our economy. The type of evidence I'm going to talk about, you would think that Social Security would get for you. And in fact, on the application, they ask the questions which are designed, you would think, to get this type of evidence, but they don't. They will get the medical evidence, but they don't get this other kind of evidence. So it is really up to you to gather it and to submit it if you want it considered. The first type of evidence I'm going to talk about are school records. Now, if you're probably wondering why school records? Well, if you had a learning disability or you had difficulty learning even in school, you don't even have to be disabled to the point where you can't learn, but really just any difficulty learning, it would be helpful to have your school records. You know, if the records show that you failed all your classes, well, that's clear. You have difficulty learning. Or maybe the records show that you had special education. That would be helpful. It would show that, yeah, for sure you had difficulties in learning. Or that maybe you had behavioral issues. They were medicating you and still you had behavioral issues. That would be important to show, because these issues they last your life. They go all the way to adulthood. And so it would be important to show that, yeah, these existed a long time ago. You may not be proud of these records, but this is the one time in your life when they're actually going to be helpful to you. So the way to get them is to go to the school that you went to and just request them. You can either do it in writing or just call them on the phone. Sometimes they might tell you they don't have them and they might refer you to the County Board of Education, and that's fine. You just call them and you can get it. It'd be best to have your high school records, but any high school, junior high, elementary, whatever you can get. I should also mention that sometimes, in addition to the transcripts, there are other kinds of reports that are helpful in these records, such as psychological evaluations or assessments that have been done. And that would be important to submit. So I would just gather all of your school records and submit them. That would be the best. All right, the second type of evidence is employment records. Employment records can show that you were maybe reprimanded on the job, or that you were written up for some kind of violation, or that even you were fired because you could not do the job. Again, maybe you're not proud of these records, but they're really helpful. It's helpful to have an evaluation that shows that you were failing in so many areas that you could not do the job. So the more evidence like this that you have, hopefully you have this at home, you have the reprimands, you have evaluations that you can submit. If you don't have them, contact the HR department of your prior employer and ask for them. Sometimes employers don't want to give you this kind of evidence because they're thinking that maybe you'll sue them, but maybe try to reassure them that no, you're just using it in a Social Security case. If you cannot get any of these kinds of records, the next best thing would be to have maybe a former coworker write something up. What we would call this a declaration. They're basically writing a little story about what they saw happened on the job. So if they saw you getting reprimanded, or they saw you just not getting it, you weren't able to learn this one skill, or that maybe you got into a fight with a supervisor, or coworkers, or even a fight with somebody in the public, whatever it was, they could write it and describe it. That would show that, yeah, you cannot do a job or you shouldn't be doing a job where these issues can come up again. They should preferably type it, but they can write it too. They need to sign it under penalty of perjury that everything they said is correct. The third type of evidence is a declaration from a friend or a family member. It doesn't really matter which, as long as it's somebody who really knows you very well. And this person should know you before you became disabled and now how you are, so that they can compare. To give a good example, if you are physically disabled and they knew you as an athlete, that you were very active, you played basketball, football, you ran track, but now you can't even lift 10 pounds. That's the kind of person who should be writing this declaration. They should describe what they knew of you before, and now they watch you try to even lift a bag of groceries, or that you can't lift the bag of groceries from your car to your house, or that you have difficulty just grasping an item off a shelf, or that you can't clean, you can't cook. Whatever it is that they've witnessed that they know you could do before, but now you can't. And they should describe it in detail. You know, what you can lift, what you can't lift, how long you can stand, how long you can sit, what you can carry. The more detailed, the better. A person should also write about what they see in you mentally. You know, if you were at one time really friendly, you had lots of friends, you went to parties, you were very outgoing, you had no difficulty getting along with other people, but now you don't want to see anybody, you don't socialize, you lash out at people because of your pain. Whatever it is that they've seen you and how they see you now and what they saw you before. The more detail they can go into, the better. If they see that you can't get out of bed because you're so depressed on certain days, or that you lash out at a friend or a family member, again, because of pain, that's what they should write about. The more detail they can provide, the better. Again, a statement handwritten is fine, but better if they type it, and they should sign it under penalty of perjury. Again, penalty of perjury means that everything that they've said is true and correct. In my own practice, I help people gather all of this type of evidence. I help them obtain school records, I help them obtain employment records, and most importantly, I help them with the declarations. So we will find the person that can best write something. We will go through several drafts with that person to get it in a good format and to make sure it really provides some good examples of what you can and cannot do. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. My name again is Jerry Kahn. My contact information is on my website. I'm happy to help you either in answering your questions or in representing you. Thank you.